Lewis Hamilton has proposed a radical idea to prevent a single team from dominating Formula One. His suggestion is simple. Teams should not be allowed to start working on next year's car until a specified date. He specifically mentioned August the 1st as a potential starting point. This idea raises interesting points, with both merits and drawbacks. Let's delve deeper into Hamilton's theory. One can understand why someone who has experienced domination by a rival team would propose such a change. However, it is somewhat awkward that Hamilton did not consider this during his own period of dominance with Mercedes in F1. If Hamilton's idea became reality, it could actually make life more challenging for Mercedes. Hamilton initially shared this idea in an interview with Sky Sports F1 in Austria. When asked about the chances of catching up to Red Bull, he acknowledged that Mercedes would slowly close the gap, but suggested that Red Bull was likely already focusing on the 2024 car due to their significant lead. He then proposed that the FIA should establish a specific time when teams are allowed to begin developing the following year's car, possibly August the 1st. He also mentioned October as a possibility, but acknowledged that it might be too late. Hamilton believes that implementing this rule change would prevent a team like Red Bull from pulling further ahead. He further stated that it would create a level playing field, turning it into a real race among teams to develop their new cars. The existence of the cost cap also supports Hamilton's idea. He argued that when a team like Red Bull is far ahead, they can allocate this year's resources to next year's car. Hamilton did not provide specific details on how the ban on starting work on next year's car would function, such as whether it would only apply to aerodynamic design or encompass all aspects of the car. It is worth noting that this idea originated from Hamilton himself and was not a proposal from the Mercedes team. Following Hamilton's initial suggestion, championship leader Max Verstappen was asked about it during a press conference. While he had not heard the suggestion directly, he was informed of Hamilton's statement that it was unfair for Red Bull to have already started work on next year's car given their substantial lead. Understandably, Verstappen dismissed the idea, stating that life is unfair. He pointed out that Hamilton had not argued for such a change during his dominant years with Mercedes, winning 6 championships between 2014 and 2020. Verstappen's point highlights the potential hypocrisy in Hamilton's proposal. Although Hamilton did acknowledge that he had benefited from a similar situation in the past and that his suggestion was based on personal experience. Hamilton also referenced cases such as Brawn GP, the team that became Mercedes, diverting most of its 2008 development budget from Honda to the 2009 car, which ultimately won both championships. His argument is that such a significant advantage should not be attainable. It is reasonable to question Hamilton's motivations in suggesting this idea, and it is unlikely he would propose it if he were still in Verstappen's position. However, regardless of the person suggesting it, most would agree that F1 does not want extended periods of dominance by a single team. The question remains whether Hamilton's idea is feasible and whether it would achieve the intended outcome. Hamilton did not present a comprehensive set of regulations, so it is speculative to determine how a development ban would work. This idea is not unprecedented. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, a temporary ban on aerodynamic development was implemented to mitigate the economic impact. However, that ban was related to significant changes in car regulations and was easier to enforce. The distinction between this year's and next year's designs is less clear, making it difficult to police. Additionally, long lead time components like monocoques pose a challenge, as they require months to manufacture. If teams were prohibited from starting monocoque design until August, it would present a significant problem. Moreover, monitoring and distinguishing between this year's and next year's design work would be complex. The FIA closely monitors wind tunnel testing and computational fluid dynamics (CFD) through the Aerodynamic Testing Restrictions (ATR), which limits testing time based on championship position. Extending these restrictions to differentiate between current and future cars could be possible but still challenging. Long-term planning also comes into play, as teams would already be working on preliminary designs for major rule changes in 2026. Would that also be outlawed? While Hamilton's suggestions may have flaws, it is important to note that he may not have fully worked out the practicalities during his interview in Austria. It was likely an off-the-cuff remark that sparked the idea. Such a rule would not materialize overnight, and there is no guarantee it would benefit a team like Mercedes. Team principal Toto Wolff has already indicated significant architectural changes for next year, and a late start would be a disadvantage. Red Bull's early focus on the next car could give them an initial advantage, but restricting development time for all teams may only solidify the current status quo. F1 already has regulations like the ATR and cost cap in place to level the playing field and promote better racing. While Hamilton's idea aims to address the issues of one team's dominance, it remains uncertain whether it is workable and if it would truly increase the chances of mixing things up on the grid.